Good morning, students. Today we are going to start chapter number 6 from the book Footprints Without Feet, that is, The Making of a Scientist, written by Robert W. Peterson. Before starting with today's lesson, I would like to clear before you the portion for your online examination in English. Children, the portion is for Standard 10, Book First Flight, Chapter 1, 2 and 3. From the poem section from the book First Flight, you are going to get from the poem The Dust of Snow till the ball poem. And from the book Footprints Without Feet, you are going to get chapter 1 and chapter 2. Now, let's proceed with today's lesson. The Making of a Scientist, written by Robert W. Peterson. My dear students, Robert W. Peterson was an American newspaper writer who later became a freelance author of magazine articles and books, especially on the topics of sports and scouting. He was a writer and editor with the Old New York Work Telegram newspaper, which folded in 1966. He died on 11th February 2006. Now proceed further with the title of this story. The question over here may come as, justify the title of the story, The Making of a Scientist. Here is the justification of the title, children. The story The Making of a Scientist is written by Robert W. Peterson. It is about the great scientist Richard H. E. Bright. He had a habit of collecting butterflies, rocks fossils, and coins since he was a kid. He started scientific research on the study of butterflies. His curiosity and a will to win the right reasons made him successful. Therefore, the title, The Making of a Scientist, is justified. Now, we will see the central idea of the story. That is the theme of the story. Kindly pay attention. The Making of a Scientist is the story of a scientist named Richard H. E. Bright. It is an interesting study of how E. Bright became a scientist. After the early death of her husband, Richard was everything for his mother. He used to get top grades in schools. At a very early age, when he was just in the second standard, he had already collected 25 species of butterflies found around his hometown. The book, The Travels of Monarch X, gave him a thorough knowledge about the monarch butterflies. In the second year of his high school, E. Bright began to search an unknown hormone in the gold spots of butterflies. In later years, he discovered how a cell could read the blueprint of its DNA. E. Bright's findings and experimentation prove he was a great scientist in the making. So this was the central idea of this story, children. Now, let's see the characters in this story. The first character is Richard H. E. Bright, a brilliant scientist, and is noted for his work on cell and reading of DNA. Second, Richard's mother. She is an encouraging mother who supported Richard in every way. Next, Dr. Frederick H. Urquhart. He is a prominent scientist. He did his research on monarch butterflies. He provided valuable guidance to Richard for his projects. Next character, Richard A. Wehrer. He is Richard's social studies teacher. He helped Richard to become a good debater and a public speaker. Children, here the name is Richard A. Wehrer. Next is James R. Wang. He is a fellow scholar who worked with him on a project. Now, let's start with the summary of the lesson. Here, I'll give you the detailed explanation, children. So, kindly pay attention. Let's begin. The article of Richard and his friend was published in the scientific journal named as Proceedings of the National Academy of Science. He was only 22 years old at that time. It was the first time that the research work of college and students was published. It was a rare honor for Richard. Richard was the only child of his parents. He grew up at Reading in Pennsylvania, USA. He had no one to play with, so he started collecting things like rocks, fossils, and coins. Gazing at stars and collecting butterflies were his hobbies. The reading of a children's book titled Richard's mother was constantly with him. She encouraged him by taking him on trips and bought him telescopes and other equipment. She found work to change him and helped him to learn a lot. The reading of a children's book titled The Travels of Monarch X inspired him. He became interested in the world of science. The book asked the readers to study butterfly migrations. Richard came in contact with the scientist Dr. Urquhart through his book, who influenced him greatly. Richard decided to raise butterflies at home to study their migration pattern. He would catch a female monarch and take her eggs. He would watch all the stages of development of the butterfly. Then he would tag their wings and free them. He did it for many years and raised thousands of butterflies in the basement of his home. Richard displayed his slides of frogs at the country science fair but did not win any awards. He realized that he needed to carry out real experiments to win an award. He took suggestions from Dr. Urquhart. As a result of his many experiments, he won many prizes at the country and international science fairs in the following years. Richard tried to find the cause of a viral fever that kills thousands of monarch butterflies. He thought that a beetle may carry the virus that causes viral fever. Although this was not the case, he still won a prize for his project. Richard experimented on viceroy butterflies. He tried to prove that viceroys copy monarchs. Viceroys do it to protect themselves from birds, as birds don't eat monarchs. The project won the first prize in the zoology division and overall third prize in the country science fair. Richard was curious to know the reason behind 12 gold spots on a monarch pupa. He and his friends built a device to prove that the spots were producing a hormone necessary for its full development. The project got him first prize in the country fair. He got third prize for zoology in this fair. Richard grew cells from the wings of a monarch butterfly. He further proved that cells grow into scales of wings only when they are injected with the hormone from the gold spots. He carried on his work at the Army Laboratory and Laboratory of the US Department of Agriculture. After his freshman year of Harvard, he returned to the Laboratory of Department of Agriculture to identify the chemical structure of hormone. This gave him a new idea about cell life. Richard's research on the hormone gave him an idea. He believed that his study could tell how cells read their DNA. He, along with his college roommate James R. Wong, worked on the idea. Then they wrote a paper explaining their theory. Richard graduated with second position in a class of 1510 students. in a class of 15,010 students. He became a graduate student researcher. He started experimenting to prove his new theory. His theory may create new ways to prevent some types of cancer and other diseases. Richard was not just a scientist, he was an all-rounder. He was a good debater and a public speaker. He was also a photographer and an outdoors person. His social studies teacher praised him well for his will to work hard, do his best, and win. Richard had all qualities that made him a true scientist. He had curiosity and a first rate mind. He wanted to win for the right reasons. So, here I end today's detailed summary of the lesson. In the second video, I'll give you the moral of the lesson with further details, children. Thank you.